It is the morning show at 1160 WVNJ. I'm Sam Greenfield, your host until 9 a.m., and our guest is John Heilemann, co-author of Game Change, Obama and the Clintons, McCain and Palin, and the Race of a Lifetime. Thanks a lot for being on.
Good morning, Sam.
When you finish this book, I was saying that normally when I get a book the day before, I try to read as much as I can. I actually read about 85% of the book. And
that's
last
a high
night.
Percentage.
Well, you know, I'm trying to escape that Larry King label I've been earning over the years. You know, if I don't read it, I just feel it. Right. But anyway, when you finished the book, was there a person or persons about whose character you were surprised, the revelations about which you were surprised?
Well, in a lot of ways, Sam, I think we were surprised in some respects by almost everybody. Mark and I, my co-author Mark Halpern and I had been covering politics for a very long time, for almost 20 years each, and we knew these candidates well. We thought we were pretty well plugged into the campaign, and as we went back and did more than 300 interviews with more than 200 sources over the course of a year and a half, many of them very long interviews, all of them kind of after action, so we could kind of get people to talk about what had happened in the nomination fights first and then in the general election. We were constantly surprised by a lot of the information that we were getting, and much of it went to the gap between the public images and the private realities of these candidates. I would say it was true certainly with John and Elizabeth Edwards to perhaps the most dramatic extent, and the book shows in a lot of ways just how big the gap was for both of them. It was most surprising, I suppose, in the case of Elizabeth Edwards, who had such a saintly public image, and as we write in the book, she's in fact a very different person than how the public perceives her. But it's also true of Hillary Clinton, it's true of Barack Obama, and it's true of John McCain. So the book was full of surprises for Mark and I, and they were surprises that also enriched our sense, as we hope they will, the readers, their sense of who these people really are.
The thing I came away with as I read the book, to me, was the fragility of the egos of the people involved. I mean, it was, there's a thing about Hollywood and Washington, D.C. are kind of intermixed now in terms of, star quality and ego. The fragility of the candidates' egos really surprised me. The sense of the least little thing could set them off.
Yes, it's true, and they're and many of them, they all have extremely high opinions of themselves, and in many cases justifiably. They're all kind of extraordinary people, but they're very thin-skinned in many respects, and you see it in particular. And I won't say whether it's justified or not justified, but you see it particularly in the case of Hillary Clinton, I think, who's a very tough woman, and for whom both Mark and I have a lot of respect. But she really believed in a deep way, as did her husband, that the media was in the tank for Barack Obama, and she was a voracious consumer of information. And so everything that was written about Obama, everything that was written about her, she was constantly following those things. And the smallest slights against her, she would see as part of this big pattern that the media was slavishly devoted to Obama and biased against her. Anything that was written about Obama, she saw as part of that same pattern. And the smallest things, as you say, we show throughout the book, the smallest things can cause these kind of titanic explosions. The calm and the cool. Again, to go back to the gap between public image and private reality, the calm and the cool and composure that all these candidates try to project, underneath, there's a lot more going on. There's like a churning cauldron of emotion, and I think it tells you something about just how trying an ordeal running for president is. It draws out, in some cases, the best in these people, but often, even in private, it often draws out the worst in them too.
Just before you came on, a headline came across the wire that John Edwards admitted that he's the father of that child, Riel Hunter's child, and I felt like saying, you can read more about it in my new book, no kidding. Really.
I know.
It's funny you bring up Hillary Clinton, because when I was reading about her, and you were talking about her almost of devotion to finding out every quote about her, it was almost Nixonian in how she went after everything that anybody said about her instead of kind of ignoring it and moving on. I was surprised by that.
It's true, and there's a Nixonian quality, I would say, in another respect, which is the kind of paranoia that the Clintons, in their worst moments, and I want to say that the book also shows both Hillary and Bill Clinton at their best moments during the campaign, but in their worst moments, there's a Nixonian quality to it for sure. And the paranoia comes through, I think, most vividly. I'll give an example. In the book, when Hillary Clinton loses the Iowa caucuses, it's the prologue of the book has a scene of the Clintons in their hotel suite in Iowa on the night of the Iowa caucuses, having been told that they thought that by their top advisors in the state that she would either win the Iowa caucuses or finish a close second. Instead, she's finished a far off third, and now Barack Obama is the most likely next Democratic nominee and the most next likely President of the United States. And the Clintons are enraged and furious about what's happened. Not just the fact that she's come in third, not just the fact that they've spent a huge amount of money to come in third, but they believe that immediately they jump to the conclusion that Obama must have cheated, that Obama must have bussed in supporters from Illinois, and that he somehow has rigged the caucuses. They look at this massive turnout and they think it can't possibly be right. There has to be some sinister explanation for what's happened. And this is something, they don't just have this in the moment. They continue to believe it for months thereafter. Bill Clinton wants he literally goes to people and says he wants to have lawyers go and challenge the results of the caucuses weeks later. By the summer of 2008, when Hillary is dropping out of the race, she has a conversation that we report in the book with her chief strategist, Mark Penn, in which she's still talking about the fact that Obama stole the Iowa caucuses from her, about the fact that Obama played the race card against her husband. The level of kind of paranoia, as I said, is as you say, I think at the level of is very reminiscent of Richard Nixon.
You know, there's the two thoughts I had about Hillary Clinton's marriage to Bill Clinton that really surprised me in a way. One was there's a school of thought, and it's a valid school of thought, that says she could not have run for president or been taken seriously had she not been married to Bill Clinton, because no one would have known about her. But by the same token, maybe she would have been more successful had she not been married to Bill Clinton. What's your take on that?
Well, I think the first thing is I think not true, and it's not true in this very kind of straightforward sense. I mean, Hillary Clinton, by the time she ran for president, had been in the United States Senate for one full term. She'd been reelected.
But would she have been in office? But would she have been there if? I'm not saying she was in everything.
I understand what you're saying, Sam. The question about whether Hillary Clinton could have run for the Senate in 2000, when she ran for the Senate for the first time in New York, without having been First Lady, I mean, it's just a hard question to answer. We don't know what Hillary Clinton's life would have been like. She's a very accomplished woman. She's a very smart woman. If she had not married Bill Clinton, she might have been a politician in her own right. She could have, who knows what her life would have been like. But there's no question that when she ran for the Senate in New York in 2000, that her main position of public prominence was having been First Lady, and that was the credential that allowed her to run and allowed her to win. There's no disputing that. It's the main thing she'd done for the previous 8 years prior to that. Now, as I say, by the time she ran for president, she'd had a very successful 6-year term. She was widely respected among her colleagues. She was taken very seriously. No one thought of Hillary Clinton as a dilettante in the United States Senate. So